ask the first question before we take it from the audience. I'm kind of curious, and I can do that being the moderator. In my opinion, I'm seeing some of the best fight scenes I have ever seen in movies and TV. You guys agree with that? What I want to know, I know you have a spectacular stunt crew that does all that, but I certainly see you guys doing a good portion of that. And Harrison Ford always referred to that as physical acting. So, if each of you could kind of answer the question, how much of that do you guys do on the show, and something you enjoy, don't enjoy, close-ups, that kind of stuff? How much of it do you guys?
Well, Elodie here is a black belt.
Studied martial arts for 7 years, yeah. So Elodie, that certainly, I guess, would help in doing that kind of choreography, wouldn't you say?
It definitely has helped, especially because we didn't really have the time to rehearse everything. I mean, Charlie, I don't know how many Charlies there you can be, because he's on set 24/7, and then he managed to find the time to train himself, and I was amazed by that. I'm a bit more lazy, so I don't train as much. But every Friday we had to go through every choreography, and it's like, I don't know, 12 hours of training. So I thought, it was enough for me to do this. But we did it all, and of course, to have this standard of quality in the action, we were working with an amazing stunt team. Brewster, Lauren Kim, who's my stunt double, she was amazing, and so I think it's I wouldn't say 50-50, but I don't know, we all did it all, and then they had the choice for the edit. Yeah, that's it.
Charlie, Daredevil background as a boxer, did you study up on proper boxing technique? Because my father's a former boxer, and when you're hitting the bag, he goes, somebody showed him what to do there.
Yeah, I mean, the end of the first episode of season 1, Matt goes to Fogwell's gym and he's boxing, and I'd never done any boxing before I got this job, and so that was, I really wanted to look like I kind of knew what I was doing. So I'd done a little bit of boxing, but there was, again, the beginning of this show was just, for me, there was so much to think about, with the accent and the blindness and just the reading of the comics took a huge amount of my time. But yeah, the physical acting is something that I don't think you think about when you get a job like this. It's just something that you imagine will take care of itself. But it's actually really challenging, because it's not just about getting the moves right. You've got to convey an emotion. You have to characters feel a particular way about what they're doing. Every punch, every kick tells a story. And I think one of the reasons this show has been praised for its action sequences is because we like to say that there's never a punch or a kick that is just there for the sake of a punch and a kick. There's a meaning, there's a reason behind everything that we do. And so we really try and tell a story with those action sequences. And there's almost one every episode, so it becomes increasingly hard to do. But it's something that we talk about a lot and think about, and try and find those moments where we connect in between, that stuff.
When you two specifically are interacting with each other, you're obviously playing a blind character, and I'm watching you on the screen, and as an actor, it's all about that eye contact to the person you're interacting with. You can't necessarily do that.
Yeah. So
are you looking through someone when they're interacting with you?
Yeah. Shoulders.
Yeah, she has little shoulders. It's important to me that it is shoulders, because when a beautiful actress like Elodie Young comes on set,
never had to tell them.
You want to be careful.
What are you looking at?
The guy who plays Daredevil is a real pervert. But the tricky thing again with that is that as an actor and as a person, when you communicate with someone, when you're having a conversation where the emotional tension is high, even in real life, you draw emotion from the other person. often, if you're talking to someone, if something terrible happens to you in real life, and you go and speak to the person that you love, or your mom, or whatever, whoever it is, what you guys will probably know is what often makes you even more emotional is when you see pity in the person that you love's eyes. When they look at you and you see that they're hurting for you, that makes you go back. People say I should can't even look at you right now because I'm so, you know what I mean. So that's a real thing, and with actors, we require that. I need to. You look at the other person, and you go to that emotional pace through that. So not having that has been really, really tricky, both for me and for the actors that I work with.
Yeah, but you do fine.
You have to find other ways. You have to find it in body language.
Can I just say something? I don't know if I told you this, but the day I auditioned with Charlie, so we did the audition called the chemistry read to see if we had good chemistry. And at the end of it, I called my boyfriend and I'm like, I think the guy's blind actually. And I thought she was. The whole time she was just looking in, this area.
He's blind or a permanent.
So, Elodie, when having a scene with him, and again, it's, the eye contact and showing emotion, and I'm watching you, you're looking right at him in terms of his eyes. I mean, is it something for you? It's like, okay, he's, obviously angry or upset, and he can't necessarily show it, but I need to get this impression through his body language and his dialogue. How do you channel that to how you're trying to communicate a scene?
But for me, Elektra was talking to a blind person, so there was no question about how could I channel my emotions, or how could I receive the emotion. It wasn't, that's the first time I've been asked this question actually. I never thought of it, and I think Charlie is an incredible actor, and I just said that for him to blush. I think he's amazing, and there's so many ways you can communicate emotions, and we had, I remember the scene we had when, I'm in the bed, and I decided to stop anything I was doing with the stick, and we have this very nice little moment between us, and the love and the fear and all these mixed up emotions, they go through our hands, the tone of our voices. I think there's so many ways you can communicate what you feel. It was never a problem for me.
Yeah. You guys are certainly doing great stuff on that show. Don't you guys agree? Yeah. I'm sure the question will be asked, but I'll go ahead and do it, and we'll go ahead and go to the audience for that. Obviously, when you're interpreting a character that has been around for years in various comic books, graphic novels, animation, there's certainly always different interpretations, and actors want to use reference materials to get an idea of what the motivation, how the character acts. There's such a great volume of it. I don't expect anyone to read all of it, but what did you guys, in your research or doing the role, in researching the characters, that you found was something that you could really grab onto to translate it to the medium of motion picture and television?
Well, whenever any job I've ever done, the first thing I email the creator or the writer and say, what's good reading material? It's invaluable to have that stuff to kind of go deeper into this character or into the world, to understand the tone of a piece. So with this, it was a no-brainer. Of course, I've got 60 years of back catalogue of awesome material. So I threw myself in and tried to. That's awesome. Cinderella's coming up.
Did she lose a slipper? They might find out.
But it's so I just threw myself into that and tried to find the best runs, the best writers and illustrators, or at least the ones that represented the show that we were making, and I've constantly been able, as I've become more familiar with the comics, what's been really cool is I'll read a script now, and there'll be a moment, there'll be a scene that reminds me very much of one of the comics, like a particular page or a particular panel in one of the comics. The example that's jumping to mind is in the beginning of, I think it might have even been the very first episode of show. I think it was the first episode, but there was a scene where Froggy and Matt, we go back to the precinct, and we basically blackmail the two cops because we know that they've been dealing with misinformation, and we basically put it to them straight. And I just happened to be reading one of the Beggars Believe issues that week. Yeah, those guys are, for me, are one of some of the best. Yeah, but I've been reading one thing, and there was a very, very similar scene where Matt Murdock's sitting there and he's holding his cane very tight like that, and nothing. Every panel is exactly the same. It doesn't move. And so I took that and applied that to the scene. So I think that could also work on camera. So, I just was thinking about that page and that issue, and just trying to, and no one will ever pick up on that, but every now and again when you do, like for example, at series 2, the beginning of the hallway, the stairwell fight scene, right at the beginning with the gun is of course the very beginning, the front cover of No More Mr. Nice Guy.
Yeah.
184 or whatever it is, and I just say the number. I think it is actually 184. But those kind of Easter eggs, they're brilliant. I love that stuff, and we know that the real fans will see that and go, cool.
We do it. Elodie, when you got the role and you were going to do Elektra, I know that, again, it's such a voluminous thing to do a lot of research, but when you were looking into it, what elements did you see from the character that you thought you could really draw and, expand upon and really put out there on screen?
I think really what struck me and really got my interest when I knew that I was playing this character that I didn't know before. I didn't grow up reading comics, so it was very exciting for me to get to discover something new. I had a volume of Elektra stuff, and so I started reading, and I was like, I don't understand anything. Who's this girl? And because she is extremely complex, and that's actually what really excited me, to get to play such a tortured soul.
That's a very good.
Yeah, and also we see a few aspects of her personality in this series. They killed her, but we never know with Marvel if she comes back. I'm sure there's so many things that I could explore with Elektra because it's an endless possibility with her. And I read also a lot of interviews with Frank Miller because I wanted to be as faithful as I could, really,
That's very, very
to the
good.
creator.
Kudos to you for doing that.
And really what struck me is he said somewhere in his interview that Elektra is not like a villain or a good girl, bad girl. That's not the point. The thing is, she is one of these villains with a weak streak, and I've really tried to explore this failure that she carries with her. So yeah, every time I try to explore that.
Well, watching the show with my friends and watching talk about a couple things you mentioned. Charlie's talking about the panels and whatnot. Literally, there'll be scenes in that. I know you guys have seen it. You're comic book fans. There'll be a shot of Daredevil on the roof panel. That's a comic book panel. You guys seen that? It's all. I mean, that's goes to the director and whatnot. And you are Elektra. Okay. I always say, when you look benchmark of superhero roles, an old guy is Christopher Reeve. He is Superman. I mean, that's the guy. So he's not an actor playing him. When I look and I see Daredevil and Elektra. You guys bring great job. Okay, let's take some questions.
My question is for both of you guys. The Punisher and Elektra have had some really bad drag-out fights where Daredevil's had to get involved and pick the side. Where do you think right now in the series Daredevil would actually pick? Would he pick Elektra or Punisher if they really went at it hard?
When they
fight each other, Elektra and Punisher really got at it.
Put my size on this table.
Yeah, this would be particularly difficult if John had made it here. I think to try and answer your question, I think that Matt met Elektra, and she influenced his life in a time where he was real formative years for him, and she has a piece of him that I don't think he'll ever give up. I don't think he could ever give up. You know, I like to think of Elektra as the first love. You know, you often you move on and you end up hopefully marrying the right girl or the right guy, but the first love is an intense experience, and so. I think, and again, Elodie spoke about Elektra's weakness. I think Matt's big weakness in season 2 was this undying belief that there is a core goodness in her. That it doesn't matter what he witnesses, what he learns, or what he sees, he's unable to not give her more chances. So I think Elektra.
Right.
Gentlemen in the dark there.
Did you feel any pressure playing Daredevil since it's a Marvel property?
No.
I like to tell people that when I got the job, the emotional roller coaster that I went through that day was from started at extreme elation at having this opportunity to utter terror. And I'm not really I'm not on social media. I don't really check the internet very often, so I don't really engage in what people are saying, and I actually don't happen to think it's always very helpful because they picked me. My job is to do the best I can with it and trust in their judgment. But my mum, who occasionally likes to send me the humorous kind of comments. And you guys may have read this, I said this before, but she forwarded me an email that just said, with a comment from someone at the bottom of a website, and it said, I don't know this guy, but I don't like his face. And I was like, well, no, I can't do anything about that. So, but thankfully, it's going to be masked for most of it.
Elodie, to that gentleman's question, you didn't know about the character, you auditioned and got the part. When did you have that moment? It's like, okay, this is a known quantity, and there's an expectation level to a degree in terms of people's expectations.
Through the promotion, when people would ask me, so, do you feel the pressure? And I'm like, why should I really? And I think it's a bit like Charlie there. You go through a bunch of auditions with Marvel, it's like 6 times, I think. And so when you have it, you grab it and you run with it. You're like, I'm not going to try to please anyone, I own it. And these guys are proper purists, geeks, I don't know, call them how you want, but they know their thing. So I was like, I had a bunch of questions for them, but they were like, Elodie, this is yours now, okay? So just go and have fun. And this is really what I did. I had a lot of fun, and of course I wanted to be truthful to the comics, so that was my first thing. I was like, okay, let's just grab as much as I can, read as much as I can, and get the essence of Elektra. But really there's no pressure. like being in front of you guys now, I feel a bit pressured. You're a lot, which is true. But other than that, no, I love this character so much that I never thought, I'm going to disappoint someone. I just love her. So now, if you guys like it or not, this is my version of Elektra, and I really cherish her. That's what matters, really.
Very good.
Hi, Charlie and Elodie. I met you both yesterday. You're both stunning and exceeding my expectations of any comic book character. My question is for you, Charlie. I love you. First of all, I want to let you know I love you so much as an actor. Whether it's like movies, TV shows, and plays, because I saw your play Incognito, which are phenomenal.
Cool. Thank you. You guys don't know what she's talking about. I just finished doing a play in New York. What's your name?
Sabrina.
Sabrina. Very cool, Sabrina.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I wanted to know, after seeing Matt, when he had like a difficult transition from childhood to now, when he had to do all the fight scenes, balance his work and personal life with as Daredevil, and then like lose loved ones. Like, which scene out of all the 2 seasons did you find the most difficult to film?
From an emotional point of view.
Or like anything, I don't know.
The hardest scenes to film. Really good question.
Yeah.
Wow, I just kind of stumped by
Yeah,
that one.
because he's like a deep character, and I admire that.
You say again?
No, because Matt's a deep character, and he has like a lot of complexity. So,
but I think we all do.
Yeah.
I think everyone in this room does. You know, I think every human being has. We've all had our triumphs and our tragedies. You know, and of course there are people who've lived in greater extremes.
Yeah.
But if you haven't had those extremes necessarily, your tragedies and your triumphs they feel as big as anyone else's would, I think. You know, and I think the thing with Daredevil is the opportunity that I was given with playing a superhero was to make him human. You know, make this guy, and that was in the writing, you know, for me, and it's in the comics. You know, there's something that if you make a show about a superhero, if the show relies on the superhero element, it will fail. It won't be that interesting because that's not what is special about. What's special is the transcendent element of these human beings into superheroes. You know, and the thing that I love about Matt and in this show particularly, and also what John did and what Elodie did, what we've all done is that we've played with these characters' vulnerabilities. So when we get to see, and I talked about this a little bit yesterday, so if any of you guys were there, I don't want to bore you, but when you get to see Matt struggle emotionally with a decision, or where you get to see him fumble over his words because he cares so much about Karen, and he's not necessarily in command of himself or his coolness or whatever, and we're endeared to him in that way. Then when he does something really cool, when he shows up and puts some bad guys down or whatever, then I think we admire it even more because we've seen the human sides of him, you know. So in terms of filming, you know, I guess one scene that was really one of the scenes that I remember, partly because I think it was probably one of the most beautifully written scenes, was at the end of season 2, Stick and I were at Elektra's grave, and I just thought that when I read that scene, I just thought it was such a beautifully written scene. And when these guys are writing for TV, there's a huge time pressure, and it's very easy just to write just kind of very standard dialogue that people just tend to say. It's not actually necessarily how people talk. You know, when people actually communicate, they go in and out. They don't talk in a linear way normally. And there was this lovely moment where in that scene, the scene starts with Matt saying that Elektra hated roses, and then he Stick says something like, "Was it worth it? Was the whole thing worth it?" And I tell a little story about how she hated roses, and I talk about it, and I kind of mention her in some way and how we were doomed and how we never had a chance. And then he goes, orchids. She liked orchids, but he doesn't have roses or an orchid. He didn't bring either. And I just think that's genius. That's brilliant. It's so sad. He's there, and he knows that she would have liked an orchid, but he doesn't have it. That's very human to me.
I kind of relate to because I don't really like roses. I like roses.
Right.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Nice going to the play.
Elodie, to again follow up with that question, Elektra is very much an emotionally layered character. When you're doing a scene and you're thinking about she has conveying one emotion, but there's a layer underneath of either sadness or tragedy, are you consciously thinking of that as an actor, that you're weaving that in to, because you kind of know what's happening ahead, though the audience doesn't. So when you're doing that scene and those emotions are so complex, are you really saying, well, she's happy now, but we have some tragedy here coming up and it's going to connect together? Does that factor in when you're working on that scene?
That's a good question. Obviously, you need to kind of know where you come from and where you're going. I mean, you do this scene and you kind of know what's next. It was a bit different on this show because it was not really the whole storyline. and I know Charlie didn't want to know anything, you know, that would come next. I'm a bit curious. I'm like, you know, go to the showrunner and say, okay, what's coming next? Because it also feeds me, because I knew that she was so complex and would kind of help me as well in the moment. But the way, when we do a scene, the way I like to work is just to try. I think by, you know, there's a lot of preparation, I believe, in the way I approach this character. For me to be free on set and not to think, oh, she should be sad because she should be like this because I don't like to intellectualize things too much. And what was great with Charlie is that I believe we had a great connection, and we didn't need to talk too much, and we just needed to just try things and be in the moment, and this is how the layers would appear, I think. You know, not forcing anything, but just letting things be.
More of an organic.
Yeah, absolutely. Because as John said, you know, I think in this show, we're really not trying to do a caricatural version of these characters. We're really trying to make them human. And so there's no need to think too much of the way she should be. It's just something organic, and you just need to let it go, and then comes what comes.
Do you guys do much ad-libbing? Do you do much ad-libbing when you're doing a scene? Does it follow the script, or?
The show's so well written, there's no, not really.
Yeah, that's all right there for you. Question here in the middle, please.
Hi. My name's Jean, and this is for both of you. Has portraying these characters changed the way you look at things in the real world? Like, for instance, crime or justice or blindness or, you know, even rooftops, because you spend a lot of time on rooftops. Do you think about these things differently now because of these characters?
Rooftops, definitely. Never been to New York before, and just filming every night on rooftops definitely changed my idea.
I mean, the argument that was kind of posed in season 2, you know, between Matt and Frank about, you know, the justice system and how it works and whose methods are more effective and stuff. You know, has of course made me realise the system that we do have in place is of course the best one. You know, because the truth is neither Matt nor Frank's way is without flaw. I guess, I mean, I'm not sure that I doubted that. I ever doubted that, but that's, you know, kind of that has reinforced my belief that the way the justice system works as is about as good as you're going to get.
Thank you very much, Ms. Jessica Jones.
Hi. My question is for Elodie. Elektra is such a complex and wonderful, complicated character. I just am wondering, how did you get into her head when you went on to the scenes? Like, did it take a lot of thought or research or?
I panicked at first because I was excited to get, to work on this show, because I was watching season 1 and I was like, oh, this is exciting. When I knew it was Elektra, I'm like, okay, cool. When I started to research, I'm like, who is she really? So I panicked at first, a little bit, not too much. But and then it's very difficult to explain, because I think it's a process that started way before I knew it was her. It started during the audition room, just having these amazing scenes to work on, and it just, I don't know, I went through this whole process, and then I knew it was her, and then I read the comics, and I really tried to feel for her in a way. Trying to understand Elektra for me is more trying to have empathy with her. Maybe that's the answer really for me, because they present, like the showrunner, they they told me, okay, Elektra is a sociopath. And I'm like, okay, what is a sociopath really? And so I needed to do research in this as well, and I read a book about sociopathy and stuff like that, you know. But for me, she's not completely a sociopath because she loves Matthew. She has this bond that, you know, exists somewhere. And so I had to try to understand what was her past. How did she ended killing people? Why? You know, what was her bond with her father? This is something that I research as well. You know, try to understand this relationship to feed the character and to portray her the way she is in season 2, as you know, we present her to you guys. So it was just, it's kind of a lot of reading, a lot of thinking, but in the end, it was just for me to digest all this information and really let them affect me and try to empathize and not judge her as well. So I could put I could put my feet in her shoes, yeah. You know, it's like a long process like this.
Your feet in her very cool shoes.
In her very cool shoes.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you for your question.